Hello everybody, this again is FIDE Master Dalton Perrine from chessuniversity.com, and we're doing another video in the video series for the tactics time today. In this video series, I'm going to be working on solving different tactics trainer positions here on chess.com. With each of the different positions, I'm going to first of all show you the tactic, then I'll give you the chance to pause the video so you can work on solving it yourself, and then I'll be explaining my thought process and showing the solution to the different puzzles we look at. So, without any more waiting around, it is time for some tactics here. Let's go ahead and hit the orange start button and see what we get. Okay, so in this position here, it is white's move right now. Go ahead and pause the video. Black has just made the move knight to f6. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you would do if you were in white's shoes right now. Okay, so in this position here, we must have made the move e6 a moment ago, which is very aggressive, going right at the center of the board toward the king. And black did not take the pawn, he instead played knight to f6. Now, in this position, as always, we're looking for forcing moves. I would mainly just start off with looking at e takes f7. That's the only check that I see, and it's also just in general a strong move because the king is going to be very unsafe on f7. So e takes f7, king takes back. Now the question ends up being, okay, what's the follow-up? Is there a next move that goes along with that? An important thing to note in that position, again, is looking for checks, captures, threats. An important thing to note, though, is the fact of this queen, bishop, and queen lineup. Our queen, bishop, and queen. So if we move this bishop away somewhere, we'll have a discovered attack on black's queen. When the king is on f7, that queen is no longer protected. So if we need to move the bishop away in a way that black will have to deal with our bishop attack somehow, and then we can capture black's queen. So e takes f7, king takes f7. We do have the move bishop to g6 check there when the king's on f7. Bishop g6 check hits the king. If black takes the bishop, we take the queen, and we're up a lot of material. The nice thing about bishop g6 check is that the king cannot go back from the f7 square back to e8 to protect the queen, because the bishop on g6 kind of x-rays through to the e8 square. So black cannot go back to that square. So it looks like we're just going to go ahead and take on f7. The king takes. We do bishop to g6 check. The bishop is captured. We now take the queen, and we are up a pretty good amount of material at this point. Okay, let's move on to our next position. That one mainly having to do with discovered attack. Okay, so in this position here, it is white's move right now. I'm sorry, it's black's move right now. White has just made the move knight to c4. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for black in this position. Okay, so black's move in this position here. The knight going to c4 does attack our rook, so we probably want to move that rook at some point in order to keep it safe. And the knight's also attacking our bishop on d6, of course. Now, again, we're going to start off with checks, captures, and threats. Bishop c5 check is the only check that I see. The king will definitely go to h1 at that point. And then we have to ask ourselves, do we have a good follow-up there? I think we can go rook down to e2, and we're threatening bishop takes g2 checkmate when the rook is on the e2 square. And I don't really see an easy way for white to guard that. I guess he could play knight back to e3 to cover g2, but the bishop on c5 is just going to capture the knight on e3. And if he tries rook g1, our bishop on c5 is going to capture the rook on g1. So I think we can just check, have the king move over, and then continue the attack or kind of setting up the mating net with rook to e2. And I don't see a good way for white to stop that. Now, it's important to note the reason that we do the check first before doing the rook e2 move. Rook e2 looks nice at the start because we're attacking the g2 pawn. And also, if white tries to block with like rook to f2, we have bishop c5 there pinning the rook. The problem, though, if we go rook e2, is white can play the move knight takes d6 check, trade off the knight for the bishop, we take back, and then white plays rook f2 and everything's protected. So we need to make this check first, then attack the g2 pawn, and white doesn't have a good way to protect against this. He's going to lose either massive material or get checkmated pretty soon. Okay, so in this position, it's mainly just about continuing with your forcing moves and trying to figure out the mating net in this case. So let's go ahead and move on to our next position. Okay, so in this position here, it is black's move right now. White has just made the move king to h2, and it's up to black to figure out what to do here. So go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with for black in this position. Okay, so in this position, it's black's move right now. Definitely an in-game scenario. We both have a king, rook, and 2 pawns for both white and black have the same material. We do have these kind of far advanced pawns, though. The pawn on f3 and the pawn on e4 are pretty far advanced. So I'm already thinking about ideas of somehow pushing one of these forward. If this pawn was not on f2, if I could somehow get rid of that pawn, then I could simply push my pawn to f2 and then promote it next move. There's no checks. Rook h1 check doesn't make any sense because white just takes it. There's no captures. So I think the move here is going to be e3. If e3, if the pawn takes, then I just play f2, and then I'm going to promote next move. White can't stop that. I have to be a little bit careful, though, because with e3, what if white tries rook a3? Rook a3 would attack the pawn. Well, both the pawns lined up on the third rank. If I take on f2 there, then white will play rook takes f3 check, forking my king and my pawn, and then take my pawn back on f2. So e3, rook a3, the important point there is I don't take on f2, I can actually just push up to e2, and yes, white will take on f3 with check, but he can't stop my pawn from promoting at that point. So we're going to go e3. Okay, it doesn't make us play that part out. But if white had played rook a3, I was going to go e2, he takes the pawn with check, I would have to move the king to the g file to avoid the rook e3 check, and then next move I would promote the pawn on e1 after that. Okay, so we had a couple of tactics here focusing around attacking the opponent's king, getting a mating net set up. This one was a bit more of an in-game type tactic, in this case kind of a pawn breakthrough, trying to free up a passed pawn. So definitely a couple of interesting positions here that I hope you guys have enjoyed by watching this video. So that's it for me. Hopefully I'll see you guys around in a future video for chessuniversity.com. I will talk with everybody again in the future, and I will see you guys later.